Design Your Default, the Proactive Life Blueprint. Introduction. Do you ever feel as though life unfolds around you rather than through you? As if you were merely a passenger on a predetermined route, responding to external pressures instead of charting your own course? We frequently find ourselves ensnared by the relentless current of the quotidian, swept along by the demands of others, or by the ingrained habits we have adopted without genuine introspection. This is what we term living by default, the path of least resistance, requiring minimal conscious exertion, yet often leaving us with a profound sense of unfulfillment, as though we are merely performing a ritual. We observe others who appear to possess an effortless command of their existence, whose lives seem imbued with purpose and accomplishment, and we question whether their success is a matter of sheer fortune or if they possess some hidden knowledge we lack. But what if this supposed secret is no secret at all? What if it is something universally attainable, something we can all meticulously construct for ourselves? For far too long, we have been conditioned to believe that success, happiness, and a life well lived are largely products of serendipity. That certain individuals are simply born fortunate, gifted with innate talent, or serendipitously positioned at the opportune moment. While luck and circumstance undeniably exert an influence, they are not the principal architects of a truly resonant existence. The genuine power, the true engine driving a life of consequence, emanates from something far more deliberate. It arises from design. This book is founded upon a simple yet profound tenet: a life that feels both meaningful and productive is not discovered by chance. It is actively, intentionally created. It signifies a departure from the passive, reactive state of default living and an ascent into the driver's seat of one's own destiny. This is the very essence of what we term proactive life design. What then precisely constitutes proactive life design? Envision it as the deliberate and systematic process of assuming dominion over your life. It is the conscious decision to cease merely reacting to whatever life presents, and instead to actively sculpt your daily endeavors, your ingrained habits, your aspirations, and even the environment that surrounds you. It involves making mindful choices about your trajectory and constructing the very frameworks that facilitate your progress. This concept transcends mere wishful thinking. It is rooted in strategic foresight followed by resolute execution. It necessitates an understanding of your deepest why, the fundamental purpose underpinning every action, and utilizing this purpose as your guiding star. It is about cultivating habits that serve your growth, not impede it, and establishing structures that enable you to navigate distractions and surmount inevitable challenges. The very title, Design Your Default, encapsulates this perfectly. You possess the agency to determine your automatic responses, your habitual inclinations, and your characteristic modes of being. You are empowered to configure your own default settings, thereby ensuring your life operates with intention, not by accident. Life, as we are all acutely aware, is seldom a placid voyage. It is punctuated by moments of adversity, setbacks, and even profound sorrow. We have all experienced the gnawing pang of procrastination, the bitter regret of missed opportunities, or the vexing frustration of failing to actualize our inherent potential. These are the junctures at which we may feel ensnared, overwhelmed, or even vanquished. Yet, it is precisely here that proactive life design offers a truly transformative promise. It imparts the wisdom to transmute potential pain into potent motivation. When you possess an unclouded sense of purpose and a meticulously crafted plan, these challenges need not serve as insurmountable obstacles. Instead, they can become catalysts for progress. The sting of inadequacy can propel you to refine your strategies. The discomfort inherent in a demanding task can signal your own expansion. Your purpose acts as an unwavering anchor, bestowing the fortitude to confront fear and inertia. By consciously designing your life, you cultivate an indomitable resilience. You learn to perceive obstacles not as justifications for surrender, but as opportunities to reaffirm your commitment to your own meticulously crafted vision. You imbue your actions with meaningful consequences, transforming the apprehension of negative outcomes into a formidable impetus for positive transformation. This book stands as your architectural blueprint. It is a practical compendium meticulously engineered to guide you from your current state of default existence to a realm where you are the deliberate architect of your life. Within its pages, you will uncover actionable strategies for discerning your purpose, for articulating unambiguous goals, and for forging the consistent habits that will render those aspirations tangible. We will delve into the art of constructing systems that maintain your momentum, the science of effectively managing distractions, and the mastery of leveraging your own tribulations to emerge even more formidable. This is your navigational chart towards a life of greater fulfillment, heightened productivity, and amplified power. Are you prepared to relinquish reaction and embrace creation? Are you ready to design your default? Let us embark. Chapter 1. Building a Proactive Life. 1. Understanding proactive living. Life often resembles a river, its currents carrying us along. We may exert a gentle paddle, a subtle steer, but predominantly, we yield to the water's direction. This is the default state. Existence lived in mere response to whatever the river presents. We react to adversity, we adapt to flux, and frequently, we find ourselves yearning for an alternate destination or a different path taken. But what if we could assume the helm of our own vessel, charting our unique course rather than simply drifting? This, in essence, is proactive living. Proactive living does not equate to a perpetual struggle against the prevailing current. It signifies an understanding of the river's dynamics, a clear destination in mind, and the possession of both the means and the resolve to navigate your craft toward it. It is the domain of intentional creation, not merely reactive adaptation. Consider this: a reactive individual braces for the storm only when it breaks, hastily patching their vessel. A proactive person, however, observes the darkening horizon, reinforcing their hull before the first drops of rain fall. This fundamental divergence, acting preemptively rather than reactively, forms the bedrock of proactive life design. It is the transition from passive passenger to decisive pilot. The default trajectory is often the path of least resistance. It demands less contemplation, less exertion, and less fortitude. It is the route where we simply acquiesce to prevailing circumstances. While this may offer transient comfort, over time, it can culminate in a life perceived as unfulfilled, a tapestry woven with what-ifs and squandered opportunities. Envision a nascent musician whose default inclination might be to secure a stable, bill-paying employment, postponing their artistic aspirations to an indefinite someday. This someday can readily dissolve into never, as the default path solidifies. Proactive living, conversely, would see that same individual actively pursuing musical instruction, engaging with ensembles, and dedicating consistent time to practice, even while maintaining their steady employment. They are consciously architecting their existence around their passion, rather than relegating it to a mere afterthought. This is not a denial of reality, but an active sculpting of it to harmonize with one's deepest aspirations. At the core of this deliberate construction lies agency. Agency is your inherent capacity to act, to exercise autonomous choice, and to be the genesis of your own endeavors. When we operate on default, our sense of agency often dwindles. We attribute our stress to our employer, our unhappiness to our partner, or our stagnation to our circumstances. This feeling of impotence can be profoundly debilitating and demotivating. It is akin to being ensnared in quicksand, where increased struggle only hastens submersion. Embracing proactive living means reclaiming that agency. It entails recognizing that while you may not always command external events, you invariably command your response. Herein resides true power. When you acknowledge yourself as the architect of your life, you cease to be a victim of your circumstances and become the creator of your destiny. Challenges transform from insurmountable barriers into fertile ground for innovation, learning, and fortification. Distinguish, if you will, between a person consumed by busyness and one characterized by productivity. The busy individual is often ensnared by a relentless deluge of demands, missives, and urgent appeals. They flit from one obligation to another, experiencing overwhelm and exhaustion, yet not necessarily advancing towards their objectives. This is a life of default busyness. The productive individual, however, operates with intention. They possess a lucid vision of their desired outcomes. They meticulously select tasks that align with that vision, discarding mere distractions. They may still be occupied, but their activity is imbued with purpose. Their actions are deliberate, guided by a clear design. This distinction is paramount. Proactive living is not characterized by frantic activity, but by focused, purposeful action. It compels the inquiry: does this action propel me closer to the life I aspire to design, or does it merely occupy my time? Furthermore, proactive living is not a singular accomplishment, a destination attained and then abandoned. It is a perpetual voyage, an ongoing process of construction, refinement, and adaptation. Life is in constant flux. New challenges emerge, opportunities arise, and our own priorities may evolve. The proactive individual comprehends this inherent fluidity. They do not establish a rigid plan and adhere to it inflexatorily, disregarding all new information. Instead, they regularly engage in self-assessment and goal review. They evaluate their progress, glean insights from their experiences, and remain amenable to adjusting their design as necessitated. This is not an indicator of weakness, but of wisdom. It is analogous to a mariner continuously adjusting their sails to capture the most favorable wind. They hold a destination in mind, yet remain flexible in their approach, adapting to the sea's ever-shifting conditions. This commitment to continuous improvement and adaptation is what sustains a designed life as vibrant and evolving. One of the most profound revelations of proactive living lies in its capacity to transmute potential pain into potent impetus. Herein lies the true brilliance of the why behind proactive living. We often strive to evade pain and discomfort at all costs. Proactive living, however, advocates a divergent strategy. It invites us to peer into the future, to contemplate the potential suffering that inaction might engender. What might transpire if you neglect your health today? Serious illness and profound regret could ensue. What might befall you if you forego that longed-for career? You might be haunted by the persistent specter of what if for years. This prescience, this ability to foresee future pain, is not intended to paralyze you with apprehension. Rather, it is meant to serve as a powerful catalyst. It is akin to the warning light on your vehicle's dashboard. Its purpose is not to instill fear, but to alert you to a potential issue, enabling you to rectify it before a breakdown occurs. This concept is intrinsically linked to purpose. When you possess a clear sense of purpose, a profound understanding of what genuinely matters to you, future pain becomes a formidable propellant. Imagine an individual whose purpose is to ensure a secure and joyful future for their family. The potential pain of failing to do so, of witnessing their loved ones endure hardship, becomes an extraordinary driving force. This is not about dwelling on adverse outcomes, but about harnessing the awareness of those outcomes to inspire positive action. In the present, it is the declaration, I wish to avert that pain, and therefore, I will undertake these steps today to ensure it does not materialize. This reframes challenges from insurmountable obstacles to opportunities for growth and resilience. It is the distinction between passively enduring adversity and actively cultivating fortitude. Thus, what are the tangible ramifications of embracing a default existence versus a designed one? The default life frequently yields a sensation of being adrift, subject to the whims of external forces. It can manifest as chronic stress, a deficit of fulfillment, a persistent feeling of never quite realizing one's potential, and pervasive sense of regret. You may find yourself perpetually reacting to crises, perpetually extinguishing fires, and perpetually lacking the time or energy to construct the life you genuinely desire. You might feel as though you are on a treadmill, expending considerable effort without making any discernible progress. Conversely, a designed life, meticulously crafted through proactive life design, bestows a sense of command, purpose, and profound satisfaction. You awaken each day with a clear trajectory. Your time and energy are invested with deliberate intent, focusing on activities that resonate with your values and objectives. You experience diminished stress as you are prepared for challenges, and you cultivate resilience through your proactive endeavors. You derive the deep gratification of knowing you are actively shaping the life you desire, rather than passively accepting the one that unfolds. You can begin to discern your current path by posing a simple question: am I typically the initiator of action? Or am I usually the respondent to unfolding events? Do I perceive myself as having a clear direction, or do I frequently feel lost? When confronted with a potential problem, do I contemplate prevention, or do I focus on mitigation after it arises? The answers to these straightforward inquiries can illuminate whether you are living by default or by design. Beyond the mere act of taking action, what does it truly signify to live with intentionality within the framework of proactive living? It means that each action undertaken is deliberate, purposeful, and aligned with your overarching vision. It is not simply about performing tasks, but about performing the correct tasks at the opportune moment, for the justifiable reasons. Intentionality is the conscious decision to direct your energy and focus toward that which holds genuine significance. It is the antithesis of merely going through the motions. For instance, attending the gym daily constitutes action. However, attending the gym with the specific intention of enhancing cardiovascular health, building strength for a defined objective, and cultivating a sense of invigorated energy for the day ahead represents intentional action. It is the chasm between a scattershot approach and a laser-focused endeavor. Busyness can serve as a diversion from intentionality. It can foster an illusion of productivity without actual forward momentum. True intentionality necessitates pausing, reflecting, and ensuring that your actions serve your ultimate purpose and design. It is about making conscious choices regarding the allocation of your precious time and energy, ensuring that each step is a deliberate stride towards the life you are creating. Comprehending proactive living is the indispensable initial stride. It is the recognition that you possess the inherent power to shape your existence, that you are not merely a product of your circumstances. Now that we have established this foundational concept and its far-reaching implications, the potency of agency, the continuous nature of the process, and the transformative motivation it offers, we must equip ourselves with the requisite tools and strategies to actively construct this proactive life. The subsequent section will meticulously explore the critical components that constitute the blueprint for our intentional existence, demonstrating how to transition from understanding to execution. 2. Creating your vision. Life, for most, is a river. It flows, it carves its own path, and we are often mere passengers swept along by its currents. We brace ourselves for the rapids, navigate the eddies, and sometimes, if fortune smiles, we drift into a tranquil, sun-dappled cove. But what if you could transcend the role of a passenger? What if you held the power to design the river itself? What if you could erect the dam, excavate a new channel, and dictate precisely where the water should flow? This is the very essence of proactive life design. It signifies a departure from passively allowing life to unfold upon you, towards actively sculpting it. And the inaugural, most vital step in this profound metamorphosis is the creation of your vision. Consider your vision as the architectural blueprint for your dream dwelling. You would not commence hammering nails and laying bricks without a meticulously crafted plan, would you? You would not simply assemble a haphazard collection of rooms, hoping it would miraculously transform into a beautiful, functional home. No, you would meticulously sit down, perhaps in consultation with an architect, and sketch out precisely what you desire. How many rooms? What aesthetic? What vista should greet you from the kitchen window? What emotional resonance should the house evoke upon entry? This blueprint, this vivid, detailed depiction, serves as the guiding force for every decision, every material selection, every single phase of construction. Your life is no different. Absent a clear vision, your actions become akin to construction without plans. You may be occupied, you may labor diligently, but are you constructing that which you genuinely covet? Are you advancing towards a future that truly ignites your spirit, or are you merely reacting to the incessant demands of each passing day? This is the default trajectory, the path of least resistance where life happens to you. Proactive life design, however, mandates that you disembark from that river and commence charting your own course. Your vision is that map. It is the architectural schematic for your ideal future, the granular depiction of what a life lived with purpose and profound satisfaction looks like, specifically for you. Without this blueprint, your endeavors are susceptible to structural weaknesses, wasted exertion, and ultimately an outcome that falls lamentably short of your inherent potential. Yet, a vision transcends mere aesthetic appeal. A truly potent vision is inextricably linked to your core purpose. It is the tangible manifestation of what genuinely matters to you, the unique imprint you aspire to leave upon the world, and the enduring legacy you wish to bequeath. It is the definitive answer to the question, why am I undertaking this? It is the inexhaustible fuel that will sustain you through adversity. When you grasp the profound why underpinning your vision, it ceases to be a mere aspiration and crystallizes into a mission. Contemplate the narrative of Anya. For years, Anya occupied a position that provided financial stability but left her feeling profoundly unfulfilled. She went through the motions, perpetually feeling as though she were awaiting something more significant. One day, a dear friend posed a question: if you could do anything, what would truly make you feel alive? Anya faltered initially. Her default response was something creative, but that lacked specificity. She pondered the question for days. She reflected on the moments in her life when she felt most invigorated, most authentically herself. These were the times she was assisting others in problem solving, when she was articulating complex concepts with elegant simplicity, and when she witnessed that illuminating spark of comprehension in someone's eyes. This introspection led her to her purpose, to empower others through knowledge. Her vision began to coalesce. It was not merely a creative job. It was a vision of herself as a highly sought-after educator, developing online courses that demystified intricate subjects for the average individual. She envisioned herself addressing audiences at conferences, authoring articles that stimulated critical thinking, and fostering a vibrant community centered around learning. This vision was precise. It was not solely about financial gain, it was about effecting positive change, about disseminating her passion and her innate ability to clarify complexity. This purpose, empowering others, imbued her vision with profound meaning. It was the why that rendered the what of her vision so compelling. This brings us to a critical juncture. Specificity catalyzes action. Ambiguous objectives yield ambiguous outcomes. If your vision is simply to be happy, that is a noble sentiment, but it is not a blueprint. How will you ascertain when you have arrived? What specific actions will guide you toward this state of felicity? Proactive life design necessitates that we delve into the minutiae. We must render our vision specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. This does not entail reducing your grandest aspirations to a sterile checklist, but rather translating the emotive essence and core of your vision into concrete elements that you can actively pursue. Therefore, let us immerse ourselves in the analytical inquiries that will assist you in sculpting this clarity. Firstly, pose this question to yourself: what specific, tangible experiences, achievements, or states of being would definitively characterize your ideal future if you were to reflect upon your life with absolute contentment? Refrain from dwelling solely on broad categories such as success or happiness. Delve deeper. What does success visibly and palpably feel like for you? Is it the sensation of waking each morning with an eager anticipation for your work? Is it possessing the financial latitude to embark on journeys at your whim? Is it observing your children flourish, secure in the knowledge of your pivotal role in their development? Is it contributing to a cause that resonates deeply with your convictions? Imagine yourself at the twilight of your existence, gazing backward. What are the moments you would yearn to relive? What accomplishments would elicit a smile? What relationships would you hold most dear in memory? What proficiencies would you be proud to have mastered? What kind of individual would you find peace in having become? Articulate it. Describe it with vivid detail. If your vision is to be a successful author, what does that entail? Is it the sight of your books adorning bookshelves? Is it receiving correspondence from devoted readers? Is it the quiet, profound satisfaction of completing a manuscript? The more concrete these mental images become, the more palpable they transform, and the more powerfully they will propel you forward. For instance, if your vision encompasses financial security, rather than merely articulating, "I desire to be wealthy," become specific. Do you aspire to generate sufficient passive income to eradicate all financial anxieties? Do you wish to be in a position to fund your children's education without incurring debt? Do you intend to contribute a substantial sum to your favored charitable organizations annually? These precise aspirations translate into tangible objectives that can subsequently be deconstructed into actionable steps. Secondly, we must comprehend the stakes involved. It is insufficient to merely covet a superior future. We must grasp how that future subserves a more profound purpose, and what we stand to forfeit if we fail to pursue it. Therefore, ask yourself, how does the pursuit of this vision directly serve a deeper sense of purpose or meaning in your life, and what are the potential ramifications, personal, professional, societal, if this vision remains unrealized? This question interlinks your vision with your why and introduces the concept of motivation derived from potential loss, not solely from gain. If your vision is to establish a sustainable enterprise, your underlying purpose might be to contribute to a healthier planet. The consequence of failing to realize this vision extends beyond personal disappointment. It represents a missed opportunity to effect a positive environmental impact. If your vision is to attain mastery as a musician, your purpose might be to infuse the world with joy and aesthetic beauty through your artistic expression. The consequence of neglecting this pursuit could be a life lived with a pervasive, quiet regret, a melody left unsung. Understanding these potential consequences is not about dwelling in negativity. It is about recognizing the profound significance of your vision. It illuminates what is at risk. It marks the divergence between a casual wish and an unyielding desire. When you perceive that realizing your vision entails not only acquiring something wondrous, but also averting the suffering associated with its absence, your commitment deepens. This is where potential pain transmutes into formidable motivation. It is the realization that the default trajectory, the path of an action, carries its own distinct and substantial costs. Consider the repercussions of neglecting to pursue your vision. What opportunities will elude you? What potential will remain dormant? What regrets might you harbor? For some, the consequences are intensely personal, a life steeped in quiet desperation, unfulfilled potential, and a profound sense of having disappointed oneself. For others, the consequences ripple outward, extending beyond the individual. Perhaps your vision is to assume a leadership role within your community, and by abstaining from stepping forward, you leave a void that might be filled by less capable individuals. Perhaps your vision is to nurture children who are both compassionate and resilient, and by failing to dedicate yourself to this endeavor, you forfeit the opportunity to positively shape future generations. A vision that is meticulously defined functions as a potent filter for every facet of your existence. It empowers you to embrace opportunities that align with your future aspirations and, perhaps more crucially, to decline those that divert you from your intended course. In an era incessantly bombarding us with distractions and competing demands, your vision becomes your unwavering compass. It safeguards your energy, your focus, and your precious time. When a new project or commitment emerges, you can pose the discerning question, does this advance me closer to my vision? If the answer is negative, it becomes considerably simpler to decline, thereby preserving your most valuable resources for that which truly matters. This is not an exhortation to rigidity or inflexibility. Visions are amenable to evolution. However, possessing a clearly articulated vision provides an unshakable anchor. It furnishes you with direction, a veritable North Star. Without it, you are adrift, buffeted by every passing gust. With it, you can navigate the tempests and chart a deliberate course towards your desired destination. Embracing the impossible is also an integral component of this process. A proactive vision should challenge you. It ought to encompass aspirations that may appear daunting, even unattainable, from your present vantage point. This is not an invitation to invite failure. It is an endeavor to expand the boundaries of what you believe yourself capable of achieving. If your vision does not inspire a modicum of trepidation, it may not be sufficiently expansive. It is the unwavering conviction that you can attain something extraordinary, something that necessitates growth, continuous learning, and unwavering perseverance. When you dare to dream expansively, to envision a future that feels just beyond your immediate grasp, you tap into an potent reservoir of motivation. This ambition fuels the inherent desire to acquire new competencies, to surmount obstacles, and to transcend your perceived limitations. It represents the fundamental difference between aspiring to a comfortable retirement and aspiring to establish a legacy that will resonate across generations. Both objectives are valid, but the latter demands a bolder vision, a more audacious blueprint. Therefore, dedicate the necessary time. Engage with these inquiries. Do not precipitate the process. Your vision is the bedrock upon which you will construct your proactive life. It is the luminous beacon that will illuminate your path forward. It is the solemn pledge you make to yourself regarding the caliber of life you are resolutely determined to forge. Once you have meticulously painted this vivid and compelling tableau of your desired future, once you have inextricably linked it to your deepest purpose and comprehended the gravity of what is truly at stake, the subsequent critical phase in constructing your proactive life will become unequivocally clear. This vision cannot be actualized through sporadic bursts of effort alone. It necessitates the consistent, deliberate cultivation of habits that will propel you forward, day after day, towards that envisioned horizon. This leads us to the foundational building blocks of proactive living, the habits that sculpt our reality. 3. Setting effective goals. Goals are the bedrock upon which a proactive life is built. Without them, we drift. We find ourselves on paths we never intended to walk. Imagine setting sail on a vast ocean. If you have no destination, no compass, you might drift for days, weeks, even years, tossed about by the waves, eventually landing somewhere by chance, not by choice. This is the default life, a life lived by accident. Proactive life design, however, demands that we become the captain of our own ship, charting a clear course. The most fundamental tool for this is the setting of effective goals. Goals are more than just wishes whispered into the wind. They are the compass that points us toward our desired future. They lend direction to our energy, focus to our efforts, and meaning to our daily actions. When you possess a clear goal, every decision, every task, can be evaluated against it. Does this move me closer to my goal? If the answer is no, you can consciously choose to redirect your energy. If yes, you invest with confidence. This clarity is the first, powerful step away from the default and towards a life you are actively designing. Consider the profound difference between saying, "I want to be healthier," and stating, "I will walk for 30 minutes every day, Monday through Friday, and incorporate 1 serving of vegetables into my dinner each night." The former is a vague hope. The latter is a concrete plan, a series of actions that, when executed, will undoubtedly lead to improved health. This second goal possesses direction. It has a discernible path. It invites action. This is the essence of effective goal setting, transforming abstract desires into actionable targets. But setting a goal isn't merely about knowing what you wish to achieve, it's about comprehending why it matters so deeply. This is where the concept of stakes emerges, proving far more potent than simply inscribing a goal in a notebook. Reflect. How many times have you set a goal, experienced a surge of initial motivation, only to have it dissipate when life became demanding or challenging? The chasm between a fleeting intention and an enduring commitment often lies in the stakes you establish. This is where we must call our shot. This phrase transcends mere declaration. It signifies the creation of a commitment with inherent weight. When you truly call your shot, you are not simply hoping for an outcome, you are forging a promise to yourself and often to others. This promise demands consequences, both positive and negative. It is about elevating the significance of your goal by attaching real meaning to its success or failure. Imagine you aspire to launch a small business. A vague goal might be, "I want to generate some income online." That is a wish. Now envision calling your shot. By the end of 6 months, I will have launched my online store selling handmade pottery and earned at least $1,000 in revenue. To achieve this, I will dedicate 10 hours weekly to product creation, marketing, and customer service. If I fall short of my revenue target, I will donate $500 to a charity I find disagreeable. Suddenly, that goal possesses stakes. The $1,000 revenue represents the reward, but the potential $500 donation serves as a formidable deterrent against failure. You have engineered a scenario where your success is not merely desirable, it is essential to avert a tangible, undesirable outcome. This process of establishing stakes is critical because it taps into a fundamental human drive, our aversion to loss and our inherent desire for consistency. When we make a public commitment, or even a firm private one with clearly defined consequences, our cognitive landscape shifts. The goal transforms from an option into a necessity. This is how we transition from the passive default of perhaps I'll get around to it to the active imperative of I must do this. The most potent goals, those that truly propel our journey through proactive life design, are those deeply rooted in our why. This why is the driving force, the engine that powers our pursuit. It is often born from our experiences, particularly from periods of struggle or pain. It is about discerning what truly matters to us at a fundamental level. Consider someone who has triumphed over a serious health challenge. Their why for maintaining a healthy lifestyle transcends mere aesthetics. It is about reclaiming their life, their vitality, their capacity to be present for their loved ones. The suffering they endured becomes a powerful, constant reminder of what is at stake and why their commitment is non-negotiable. This why transmutes a goal from a chore into a sacred mission. This nexus of pain and purpose is a cornerstone in transforming potential suffering into potent motivation, a core tenet of this work. When we perceive how achieving a goal will not only benefit us, but also help us surmount past difficulties or avert future distress, its importance escalates exponentially. Even more profoundly, this why can extend beyond ourselves. Perhaps your struggle with a particular challenge has endowed you with unique insights that could aid others facing the same issue. In such instances, your goal becomes one of contribution, of effecting a positive impact. This elevates the pursuit from mere self-improvement to something far more profound. When you can articulate the answer to what is the deepest, most authentic why behind the goals I am setting, you unlock a reservoir of motivation that external rewards alone cannot provide. Is it to validate yourself? To secure a brighter future for your family? To champion a cause you hold dear? To honor a lost loved one? The more profound and personal your why, the more resilient your commitment will prove when confronted with obstacles. Once we have established a clear what and a compelling why, the next critical element of effective goal setting is time management. Life possesses an uncanny ability to expand and fill whatever temporal space we allocate to it. This phenomenon, known as Parkinson's law, represents a formidable force arrayed against our proactive intentions. If you allot a month to complete a task, it will likely consume a month. A week will likely yield a week's worth of effort. A day will likely demand a day. To counteract this, we must embrace timeline compression. This entails establishing aggressive, yet realistic, deadlines for our goals and their constituent milestones. It is about fostering efficiency and clarity by cultivating a sense of urgency. When you operate within a constrained, focused timeframe, you are naturally impelled to cut through the extraneous, identify the absolute, essential steps, and execute them with precision. Procrastination becomes a less valuable option when the finish line rapidly approaches. This does not advocate for impossible deadlines that invite burnout. Rather, it calls for an honest assessment of what can be accomplished with focused effort, followed by a challenge to achieve it within that compressed time frame. It necessitates deconstructing larger goals into smaller, manageable segments, each endowed with its own aggressive deadline. For instance, if your ambition is to write a book, instead of contemplating I need to write a book, you might segment it. I will compose 500 words daily for the next 30 days, or I will finalize the outline, or chapter 1 by Friday. When you compress timelines, you also simplify your objectives. You are compelled to ask, what are the absolute, non-negotiable steps required to achieve this within this limited period? This process of elimination is extraordinarily valuable. It enables you to differentiate between tasks that are truly essential and those that are merely distractions or nice-to-haves. This focus is a hallmark of proactive life design. It is about directing your energy with surgical precision rather than diluting it across a multitude of less significant activities. In summation, setting effective goals encompasses several pivotal components. Firstly, they must be clear and directional, serving as your compass. Secondly, they must possess genuine stakes, transforming intention into unwavering commitment. Thirdly, they must be deeply rooted in your personal why, connecting your aspirations to your purpose and past experiences, thereby converting potential pain into powerful motivation. And finally, they must be approached with a strategy of timeline compression, compelling efficiency, and clarity through aggressive, yet achievable, deadlines. Let us delve deeper into the practical application of these concepts by posing some crucial questions. When contemplating a goal, be it a career aspiration, a personal development target, or a health objective, ask yourself, what is the deepest, most authentic why behind the goals I am setting? This is not a question to be answered superficially. It demands introspection. It may involve revisiting past experiences, moments of frustration, or periods of profound joy. Why do you covet that promotion? Is it solely for financial gain, or is it about validating your capabilities, leading a team, or making a significant contribution in your field? Why do you aspire to acquire a new skill? Is it for a potential employment opportunity, or is it for the sheer delight of learning and expanding your intellect? Perhaps your why is anchored in a desire to eschew repeating past errors or to forge a legacy for future generations. Comprehending this core motivation is akin to discovering the wellspring of your power. It is the fuel that will sustain you when the initial enthusiasm wanes. This why constitutes the personal narrative that imbues your goal with meaning and makes it worth striving for. It is the distinction between a task and a calling. It is the engine that transforms the abstract into the urgent. Next, let us consider the practical, tangible dimension of commitment. Ask yourself, what specific, tangible stakes can I establish for this goal that will foster genuine accountability and render failure a significant consequence? This is where you transcend mere wishing. Stakes can manifest in myriad forms. They can be financial, pledging to donate a predetermined sum to a cause you find unappealing if you miss a deadline. They can be social, confiding in a trusted friend or mentor about your goal and requesting regular check-ins, or even making a public declaration of your progress. They can be self-imposed rewards and penalties. If you achieve your weekly target, you earn a guilt-free evening of repose. If you miss it, you must awaken an hour earlier the following day to compensate. The critical factor is that the consequence must feel sufficiently significant to you to precipitate action. It must engender a sense of urgency and importance. The more vividly you can portray failure as a genuine loss, the greater your propensity for success. This is not about punitive measures. It is about instituting a robust system of accountability that harmonizes your actions with your intentions. It is about making your word your bond, not solely to others, but most crucially to yourself. Finally, we must translate these potent intentions into concrete action plans. Ask yourself, how can I deconstruct this ambitious goal into smaller, actionable milestones with aggressive yet achievable timelines, and what are the essential, non-negotiable steps required for each? This is the practical architecting of your proactive life. Take your grand objective and dissect it into smaller, more manageable components. For each component, establish a deadline. Then, identify the absolute, indispensable actions for that segment. These are your non-negotiables. If your goal is to complete a marathon, a milestone might be finishing a 10K race within 2 months. The essential steps for that milestone could include: adhere to the training plan for week 1 and week 2, ensure I obtain 7-8 hours of sleep each night, and maintain proper hydration before and after each run. These are the foundational actions. They are simple, clear, and directly contribute to the milestone. This incremental approach mitigates overwhelm. It cultivates a steady rhythm of progress. Each completed milestone becomes a triumph, fueling your motivation for the subsequent one. It is about building momentum, one deliberate action at a time. This structured methodology ensures that your ambition does not become lost in the immensity of the undertaking, but rather transforms into a series of attainable steps on a clearly delineated path. Once we have established the clarity and commitment born from setting effective, purpose-driven goals, the subsequent crucial step in constructing our proactive life is to ensure these aspirations do not languish as mere intentions. We must now translate them into consistent, repeatable actions. This leads us directly to understanding how to cultivate the habits that will reliably carry us towards our desired future, transforming our well-defined targets into tangible realities. 4. Developing daily habits. Our lives, day by day, are sculpted by the small, repeated actions we take. These aren't random occurrences, they are the building blocks of our reality, the very foundation of our default state. Think of it this way. If you don't consciously choose the bricks and mortar, the wind and rain will eventually build something for you, and it likely won't be the sturdy, purposeful structure you envisioned. This is where developing daily habits comes into play. It's about taking the blueprint for your proactive life, the one you're designing, and turning it into a tangible day-to-day existence. Habits as the architecture of your default. Your daily habits are far more than just routines. They are the invisible architects of your default way of being. When you're not actively making decisions, when you're just going through the motions, it's your habits that take the wheel. If these habits haven't been intentionally designed, they will steer you down a path of reaction, not creation. You'll find yourself responding to emails before you've even had your coffee, scrolling through social media when you meant to exercise, or putting off important tasks until the last possible moment. This is the default life, a life lived on autopilot, shaped by inertia and external pressures rather than your own inner compass. But here's the powerful truth. You can redesign this default. Proactive life design is fundamentally about consciously choosing your habits. It's about understanding that by deliberately shaping what you do every single day, you are actively constructing the life you want. Well-designed habits create a sense of flow, making complex tasks feel smoother and less daunting. They reduce decision fatigue, that mental exhaustion that comes from having to choose between countless options. When your habits are in place, you don't have to spend precious mental energy deciding what to do next. You just do it. This frees up your mind to focus on the truly important, the creative, the strategic. This is how habits transform potential pain into powerful motivation. The pain of procrastination, the overwhelm of a messy to-do list, the regret of missed opportunities. These are the signals of a reactive default. By designing habits that lead to consistent action, you replace that pain with the deep satisfaction of progress. You begin to feel the momentum build as you tick off tasks, as you see yourself getting closer to your goals. This isn't about brute force, it's about smart, systematic action. Habits are the engine of your proactive life, turning your intentions into consistent, powerful forward movement. Consider the story of Elias. Elias worked in a job he found uninspiring, and his evenings were often lost to mindless television. He'd always dreamed of writing a book, but the sheer scale of the task felt impossible. His default was to collapse on the couch after work, too drained to even think about writing. He recognized this pattern, this default, and decided to design a new one. He didn't try to write for hours every night. That felt too big. Instead, he designed a simple habit. After I put my dinner plate in the dishwasher, I will open my laptop and write for 15 minutes. That was it. No pressure to produce brilliance, just the commitment to open the laptop and write for a quarter of an hour. He chose a trigger, putting his plate in the dishwasher, and a specific, manageable action. Slowly, consistently, those 15 minutes began to stretch. He started looking forward to that time. The act of opening the laptop became a ritual, signaling the start of his creative work. Within months, he had a substantial draft, and the momentum had carried him far beyond his initial, reactive default. His habits had become the architecture of his aspiring author life. The power of rituals and triggers. To make your habits stick, you need more than just a vague intention. You need to create specific cues that tell your brain, it's time to do this. This is where the power of rituals and triggers comes in. Think of a ritual as a short, deliberate sequence of actions that signals the start of a specific type of work or activity. It's a way to consciously transition yourself into a productive mindset. A trigger is the environmental cue, the time-based prompt, or the preceding action that initiates this ritual. Let's break this down. Imagine you want to establish a habit of focused work. Your default might be to check your phone the moment you sit at your desk. That's a reactive trigger. To design a proactive habit, you need to create new, intentional triggers and rituals. Here are some examples. The morning writing ritual. Trigger: the moment your alarm clock goes off. Instead of hitting snooze, you immediately sit up. Ritual: you walk to your desk, pour yourself a glass of water, and open your writing document. You might also light a specific candle or put on a particular instrumental playlist. This sequence of actions tells your brain, we are now entering writing mode. The evening planning ritual. Trigger: after you finish dinner and clear the table. Ritual: you take out a small notebook and a pen. You spend 5 minutes jotting down your top 3 priorities for the next day. This ritual signals the end of the workday and prepares you for the next. The exercise trigger. Trigger: laying out your workout clothes the night before. Ritual: the first thing you see in the morning are your clothes. You put them on immediately. This bypasses the decision-making process of whether or not to exercise. The key is to make these triggers and rituals as simple and consistent as possible. They should be easy to implement, even on days when your motivation is low. The more automatic they become, the less mental effort they require. You're essentially creating a mental shortcut, a pre-programmed response to a specific cue. This makes it far easier to slip into the desired habit without a second thought, effectively designing your default for productivity and progress. Consider Sarah. Sarah struggled with feeling overwhelmed by her work. She'd start her day by checking emails, which would immediately send her into a reactive frenzy, responding to urgent requests and losing sight of her own important projects. She decided to design a new morning ritual. Her trigger became brewing her first cup of coffee. As the coffee brewed, she would walk to her home office, sit at her clean desk, and spend exactly 10 minutes planning her day using a simple template she'd created. This ritual was designed to be short, focused, and calming. It involved no screens, just her thoughts and a pen. The coffee brewing became the signal, the scent and warmth, the sensory cue that her workday was about to begin, but in a controlled, intentional way. This simple habit, initiated by a consistent trigger and ritual, dramatically reduced her feelings of overwhelm and allowed her to tackle her most important tasks first, transforming her reactive morning into a proactive start. Systematization beyond checklists. The stencils of habit. We often think of systems as checklists, a list of tasks to complete. Checklists are fantastic for one-off projects or ensuring all steps of a specific task are covered. However, when it comes to building lasting habits, we need something deeper. We need stencils. A stencil is like a template, a pre-designed pattern that you can repeatedly use. It's a process so ingrained, so refined, that it requires minimal conscious thought to initiate and execute. Think of a master chef who can prepare a signature dish with effortless grace. They aren't thinking about each individual ingredient or step in isolation. They have a mental stencil for that dish, a seamless flow of actions that produce a consistent, excellent result. Proactive life design is about creating these stencils for your habits. This involves 2 key steps. 1. Identify recurring tasks. Look at your current routine. What tasks do you perform regularly that could be elevated to habit status? These are often tasks that are essential for your goals but tend to get pushed aside or done haphazardly. For Elias, writing 15 minutes a day was a recurring task that he elevated to a habit. For Sarah, planning her day was a recurring task that became a ritual. 2. Refine the process to be seamless. Once you've identified a task, ask yourself, how can I make this process as smooth and automatic as possible? This might involve pre-preparation, laying out clothes, setting up your workspace, gathering materials beforehand. Simplification, removing unnecessary steps or distractions. Standardization, creating a consistent order of operations. Automation, using technology where appropriate, but without letting it become a distraction. For example, if your goal is to eat healthier, a checklist might be buy vegetables, chop vegetables, cook vegetables. This can feel like a lot of individual steps, each requiring a decision. A stencil approach might look like this. Every Sunday, I will spend 30 minutes chopping a variety of vegetables and storing them in airtight containers in the fridge. Now, during the week, when you want a healthy meal, the vegetables are already prepped. The decision is no longer do I have time to chop these? But simply which pre-chopped vegetables can I quickly cook? The process of healthy eating has become a much more seamless, templated habit. This systematization, this creation of stencils, is crucial for freeing up your mental bandwidth. When your habits operate on a well-defined stencil, they require less conscious effort, less willpower. They become almost second nature. This allows you to dedicate your mental energy to more complex problem-solving, creative thinking, and strategic planning, the very essence of a proactive life. It's about building a robust framework of automatic, positive actions that support your larger goals, rather than constantly fighting against your own inertia. The stakes of habit, embedding accountability. We've discussed the importance of accountability in the call your shot concept. This principle is equally vital when it comes to developing and maintaining daily habits. Without some form of accountability, even the best designed habits can falter. Habits need stakes, consequences that make adherence meaningful and deviation costly. These stakes can be internal or external, and a robust habit system often incorporates both. Internal stakes. These are the consequences you experience within yourself. The satisfaction of progress. Every time you complete a habit, you gain a small sense of accomplishment. Building a streak of completed habits creates a powerful internal reward system. You feel good about yourself for sticking to your commitments. Avoiding negative feelings. Conversely, not performing a habit can lead to feelings of guilt, regret, or frustration. You know you should have done it, and that knowledge itself can be a powerful deterrent. For Elias, the thought of not writing for 15 minutes started to feel like a missed opportunity, a small failure. That chipped away at his progress. Reinforcing identity. Consistently performing a habit reinforces your desired identity. If you want to be a writer, consistently writing makes you feel like a writer, which in turn motivates you to continue writing. External stakes. These are consequences that involve other people or systems. Accountability partners. Sharing your habit goals with a friend, family member, or colleague can create a powerful external pressure to succeed. Knowing someone else is aware of your commitment makes you less likely to let yourself off the hook. Public commitments. Announcing your intention to build a habit on social media or in a group can also provide accountability. While this requires careful consideration to avoid undue pressure, for some, the public nature of the commitment is a strong motivator. Habit tracking apps and systems. Many apps allow you to track your habit streaks, providing visual feedback and sometimes even offering rewards or penalties. The visual representation of your progress can be a powerful motivator. Financial commitments. Some people use betting systems where they put money aside for a charity they dislike if they miss a habit, or they commit to donating a certain amount for every missed day. This makes the cost of not adhering to the habit tangible. The key is that the stakes for your habits should be meaningful enough to motivate you to overcome momentary resistance, but not so punitive that they lead to discouragement. Chapter 2. Strategies for Growth and Achievement. 1. Boosting productivity. The incessant hum of perpetual motion. The sharp chime of an emergent notification. The ceaseless cascade of digital content. For an overwhelming majority, this constitutes the very rhythm of their professional existence, an ostensibly indomitable force that orchestrates their every engagement. They perceive themselves as occupied, undeniably so, yet the profound satisfaction derived from genuine attainment, from palpable advancement, remains frustratingly out of reach. This is not efficacy. It is a default setting, a reactive posture wherein external imperatives dictate the internal agenda. It is the insidious trap of being occupied without being effective, a state that siphons vitality and leaves us feeling perpetually adrift, even as we hurtle from one pressing obligation to the next. This is the default productivity snare, and it represents a formidable impediment to cultivating the proactive existence we aspire to. Within this default state, our days frequently devolve into a disarray of chaotic fragments. We attend to our electronic correspondence the instant we awaken, before the faculties of our minds have even fully coalesced. We endeavor to concurrently manage a multitude of undertakings, erroneously believing ourselves to be operating with efficiency, when in truth, our cognitive processes are engaged in perpetual gear shifting, squandering precious moments and clarity with each transition. A notification materializes, and our meticulously crafted work is abruptly dislodged from its course. A colleague poses a fleeting inquiry, and our train of thought is irrevocably lost. We respond to that which asserts itself most vociferously, that which demands immediate attention, rather than that which genuinely contributes to our long-term aspirations. This reactive methodology leaves us feeling inundated, stressed, and ultimately unfulfilled. We may invest inordinate hours, yet the resultant output frequently appears disparate, lacking the depth and resonance that emanates from authentic, concentrated exertion. This perpetual state of reaction, as opposed to deliberate direction, embodies the very essence of operating on default, and it actively obstructs our capacity for growth and achievement. It is a treadmill of activity that fails to propel us forward, ensnaring us in a cycle of busyness devoid of substantive progress. Authentic productivity, the kind that invigorates growth and fosters achievement, is not contingent upon being busy. It is predicated upon being effective. It necessitates the design of frameworks that empower us to enter states of profound concentration, to sustain that focus, and to generate meaningful output with consistent efficiency. This is the fundamental tenet of proactive life design as applied to our professional endeavors. It signifies a departure from the accidental and an embrace of the intentional. Rather than awaiting the advent of motivation or the guidance of inspiration, we construct the very scaffolding that renders productive output an organic, almost effortless consequence. One of the most potent avenues for achieving this lies in the deliberate cultivation of productive habits and rituals. Conceive of it as the meticulous assembly of a finely tuned mechanism. Instead of attempting to compel each component to function in isolation, we establish interconnections and routines that permit the entire system to operate seamlessly. This is precisely where habit stacking finds its application. Habit stacking entails the integration of a new habit you aspire to develop with an existing habit you already habitually perform. For instance, should you wish to initiate a brief journaling practice, you can append it to your morning coffee ritual. Upon pouring your coffee, you immediately settle down to journal for a duration of 5 minutes. The coffee serves as the cue, the trigger that signals to your intellect that the moment for journaling has arrived. This imbues the new habit with a sense of naturalness, rendering it less of an imposition. Analogously, the creation of pre-work rituals can yield profoundly effective results. This constitutes a concise sequence of actions you undertake prior to commencing your most critical work. It might involve tidying your workspace, preparing a cup of tea, immersing yourself in a particular piece of music, or engaging in a few moments of deep breathing. This ritual functions as a mental transition, communicating to your brain, "Very well, it is now time for focused engagement. The distractions have been silenced, and we are entering a state of deep work." These incremental, consistent actions generate a potent momentum that carries you into your tasks, making sustained concentration considerably more attainable. Another foundational element of systematic productivity is task batching and time blocking. Task batching is the practice of consolidating analogous tasks and completing them within a single, dedicated temporal segment. Rather than intermittently checking emails throughout the day, you allocate specific intervals for addressing all your electronic correspondence. Instead of oscillating between writing, editing, and research, you might dedicate an entire morning solely to the act of writing. This substantially mitigates the cognitive burden associated with context switching. Each instance you transition between tasks, your brain requires a period of recalibration to recall the point of departure and to re-enter the appropriate mental framework. By batching similar tasks, you minimize these transitions, thereby enabling extended periods of sustained, profound engagement. Time blocking elevates this principle further. It involves the scheduled allocation of discrete temporal blocks within your calendar for particular tasks or categories of work. It is akin to making appointments with yourself for your most significant activities. Instead of merely possessing a vague to-do list, you are assigning a concrete time slot to each item. For example, you might reserve the interval from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. for deep work, Project X report, or from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. for batching. Respond to client emails. This methodology imparts structure and lucidity, ensuring that critical work receives the dedicated attention it merits. It transforms your calendar from a passive repository of appointments into an active blueprint for your productive day. When you observe a time block designated for a specific task, you are considerably more inclined to commit to it and see it to fruition. This is not about excessive scheduling. It is about the intentional apportionment of our most valuable asset, our time, to that which truly holds significance. Beyond our habits and schedules, our physical and digital environments exert a crucial influence on our productivity. We must assume the role of architects of our own workspaces, deliberately designing them to foster concentration and minimize disruptions. This necessitates a critical examination of our desks, our computers, and indeed, our mobile devices. Is your desk cluttered with papers, writing implements, and extraneous items? A disordered space frequently engenders a disordered mind. Dedicate time to declutter your workspace, organize your materials, and ensure that only that which is requisite for your current task is readily accessible. This straightforward action can cultivate an atmosphere of serenity and order, preparing you for focused work. In the digital realm, the landscape presents an even more formidable challenge. Our devices serve as perpetual conduits for potential interruption. This is where digital hygiene assumes paramount importance. We must exercise ruthless discipline in managing notifications. Deactivate non-essential alerts for electronic mail, social media platforms, and news applications. Consider employing do not disturb modes during your periods of focused work. If you find yourself habitually perusing social media, utilize website blockers or applications that temporarily curtail your access during work hours. The objective is to establish a digital environment that facilitates your productivity, rather than one that perpetually diverts you from it. This is not an exercise in deprivation, it is an act of reclaiming dominion over your attention. By intentionally designing your environment, you forge a sanctuary for deep work, a space wherein your intellect can settle and engage fully with the task at hand. Now, let us address a potent, frequently overlooked, instrument for unlocking peak productivity, calling your shot and establishing aggressive timelines. This is the juncture at which we infuse our objectives with a sense of urgency and accountability. It entails making a clear, unambiguous commitment to a specific outcome and stipulating a firm deadline for its accomplishment. This transcends mere goal setting. It is about engendering stakes. What precisely are stakes? Stakes are the ramifications, either positive or negative, that arise from the attainment or failure to attain a goal. They are the elements that render a commitment tangible and significant. Stakes can be personal, the profound satisfaction of accomplishment, the profound relief of completing a daunting undertaking. They can be professional, a promotion, the successful inauguration of a project, or the avoidance of adverse feedback. They can even extend to the social sphere, informing a friend or colleague of your objective and soliciting their follow-up on your progress. The greater the import of the stakes, the more robust your impetus to persevere. When you truly call your shot, you are not merely harboring a hope of achieving something, you are proclaiming your intention and instituting a system of accountability that augments the probability of success. This concept is intrinsically interwoven with Parkinson's law, which famously posits that work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. If you allot yourself 2 weeks to complete a task, it will invariably consume 2 weeks. If you allocate yourself 2 days, you will frequently discover a means to accomplish it within those 2 days. This is not sorcery, it is the potent force of focused intent. When you institute an aggressive, compressed timeline, you are compelled to operate with heightened efficiency. You naturally commence the elimination of non-essential steps, the streamlining of your process, and the excision of time-consuming activities. You become more decisive because you recognize that you lack the luxury of protracted deliberation. This necessitates a cognitive paradigm shift. Instead of contemplating, "When will I find the time for this?" you inquire, "How can I effectively complete this by this deadline?" This imperative fosters innovation and efficiency. The act of verbalizing your commitments constitutes another vital component. Merely inscribing a goal is a commendable initial step, but articulating it to another individual, a mentor, a confidant, a colleague, or even stating it aloud to yourself with unwavering conviction, amplifies its potency. This externalizes the commitment and establishes an additional stratum of accountability. It becomes more arduous to recede from a course of action when others are cognizant of your intentions. This does not imply the necessity of announcing every minor task, but for significant objectives, divulging your intentions can serve as a formidable motivator. It transmutes a private aspiration into a public pledge, and that transformation can be a pivotal determinant of your productivity. In the contemporary milieu, the most formidable adversary of productivity is not an absence of effort, but a relentless barrage of distractions. Proactive life design mandates a militant approach to the identification and eradication of these distractions, both external and internal. Conceive of it as the construction of a bulwark around your focus. On the digital frontier, we have already addressed notification management and website blockers. However, beyond these measures, we must remain cognizant of our overall digital consumption. Do you dedicate hours to scrolling through social media feeds when your attention should be directed toward work? Do you incessantly monitor news aggregators? These habits, if left unchecked, can utterly dismantle even the most meticulously devised plans. We must consciously engineer our digital lives to support our objectives, rather than undermine them. This might entail designating specific intervals for social media engagement, unfollowing accounts that offer no discernible value, or even undertaking digital detox retreats. Your physical environment, as we have previously discussed, also represents a contested arena for attention. Is your workspace conducive to concentration, or does it perpetually draw your attention elsewhere? Are there incessant noises, interruptions, or visual disarray? Establishing a dedicated, organized, and tranquil workspace is one of the most efficacious methods for augmenting productivity. If a separate office is not feasible, designate a specific corner or area within your domicile exclusively for work, and communicate to others that when you occupy that space, you are focused and should not be interrupted unless it constitutes an emergency. However, perhaps the most insidious distractions are the internal ones, our own errant thoughts, anxieties, and mental clutter. Our minds can be remarkably active spaces, replete with to-do lists, apprehensions, and sundry notions. Techniques such as mindfulness and meditation can prove exceedingly beneficial in this regard. Through the practice of mindfulness, you train your intellect to detect when your thoughts deviate and to gently redirect your attention back to the present task. This is not about emptying your mind, but about cultivating the proficiency to govern the trajectory of your attention. Another efficacious technique is thought dumping. When a spontaneous thought or idea surfaces during a period of focused work, rather than dwelling on it, swiftly jot it down on a separate sheet of paper or within a dedicated note-taking application. This acknowledges the thought without permitting it to derail your current endeavor. Once your focused work session has concluded, you can then review your thought dump and determine its subsequent disposition. This liberates your cognitive resources, enabling you to concentrate on the task at hand. Thus, how does your current default approach to productivity actively impede your long-term growth and achievement, even if it confers a semblance of busyness in the short term? When we operate on default, we are, in essence, allowing our circumstances to dictate our actions. We respond to external stimuli rather than acting from a place of deliberate intention. This implies that the tasks we engage with are frequently those that are most vociferous or most immediate, not necessarily those that hold the greatest significance for our long-term objectives. We may dedicate hours to clearing our electronic inboxes, but if those inboxes are inundated with low-priority requests, we are effectively expending energy without making meaningful headway. This reactive mode prevents us from allocating consistent time and energy to the strategic, high-impact activities that genuinely propel growth. We become adept at reacting, but novices at creating. This perpetual firefighting leaves us depleted, with scant energy remaining for the proactive planning and focused execution that culminate in substantial achievements. The perception of busyness is a fallacious indicator of progress. It is often merely the cacophony of our default system, operating at maximum capacity, devoid of a discernible destination. What are the specific 2. Overcoming obstacles? Life rarely unfolds in a straight line. You embark with a crystalline vision, a meticulously crafted plan, and a heart brimming with resolve. Then, without preamble, an obstacle materializes. It might be a sudden professional derailment, a personal crucible, or simply a moment when events conspire against your expectations. It is facile to succumb to discouragement, to perceive failure, or to deem your carefully constructed blueprint obsolete. Yet, it is precisely here that the power of proactive life design unfurls its true brilliance. Consider this: were life perpetually a placid current, a blueprint would be superfluous. The very act of designing your existence, of setting audacious goals and forging habits to attain them, signifies a departure from the mundane, a step beyond the sanctuary of comfort. And when you venture beyond the ordinary, the unexpected is an inevitable companion. Obstacles are not indictments of a misguided path. They are frequently affirmations of a journey worth undertaking. They are not anomalies. They are intrinsic to any endeavor of consequence. This is the juncture at which we reframe our perception, transforming obstacles from impediments into indispensable architects of our growth. Your proactive blueprint is not merely a guide for seamless progression. It is a strategy for navigation, adaptation, and even flourishing amidst adversity. It is the understanding that the challenges you confront are not deviations from your plan, but rather crucibles for testing its integrity, for forging wisdom, and for cultivating an inner fortitude. Reflect upon the fundamental tenet of this discourse, the transmutation of potential pain into potent motivation. When an obstacle looms, a visceral reaction is natural. Frustration, disappointment, or even apprehension may surface. These are authentic emotions, and their acknowledgement is the nascent step. But what if you could harness these very feelings as propellant? This is the very essence of proactive life design. It is the cultivation of a profound, unyielding purpose that serves as an internal lodger's compass. When you possess an unassailable clarity regarding your why, your ultimate aspirations, the impact you aspire to effect, the individual you aim to become, that why becomes an indomitable engine. When confronted with a setback, rather than becoming ensnared in negativity, you can pose the question: how does this challenge intersect with my purpose? What insights can I glean from this that will propel me closer to my ultimate objective? This reorientation is not an act of denial, it is the strategic redirection of your emotional energy. The sting of a setback, when approached proactively, can ignite an internal conflagration. It can galvanize your determination, sharpen your resourcefulness, and deepen your commitment. This is not the suppression of emotion. It is the exercise of emotional intelligence and strategic acumen. Thus, how do we transition from mere reaction to proactive design in the face of obstacles? It commences with anticipation. We often conceive of planning as charting the favorable currents, but a truly proactive approach necessitates contemplation of potential disruptions. This is not an exercise in pessimism, it is an embodiment of realism and preparedness. Dedicate a moment to scrutinize your goals, your habits, and your commitments. Where are the vulnerabilities? Where might challenges emerge? For instance, if your ambition is to launch a new enterprise, potential obstacles could encompass funding shortfalls, unforeseen competitive pressures, or technical malfunctions. If your habit is to engage in morning exercise, potential impediments might include illness, inclement weather, or a demanding professional schedule that intrudes upon your routine. The crucial inquiry remains: what could impede my progress? A potent methodology for this endeavor is the pre-mortem exercise. Envision your objective or project as having met with catastrophic failure. Now, trace the sequence of events in reverse. What precipitated this failure? What were the specific contributing factors? Was it a deficit in planning, flawed execution, exogenous forces, or a confluence of these elements? By confronting the specter of failure in advance, you can identify latent pitfalls and embed safeguards within your design prior to commencement. This might involve establishing a contingency fund for your venture, devising an alternative exercise regimen for inclement weather, or incorporating temporal buffers for unforeseen delays. This proactive foresight is foundational to designing for resilience. Another pivotal facet of surmounting obstacles lies in the reframing of failure not as a terminus, but as invaluable data. Within the paradigm of proactive life design, failure is not a judgment upon your intrinsic worth. It is feedback upon your operational system. Each instance where events diverge from expectation presents an opportunity for information acquisition. What precisely transpired? Why did it occur? What alternative courses of action were available? This is where systems and checklists become your indispensable allies. If you are meticulously tracking your progress, you likely possess a repository of data. If not, initiate the practice. When a setback manifests, scrutinize your data. Did you omit a critical step in your process? Was a particular habit not consistently observed? Was your initial premise flawed? By systematically dissecting these failures, you can pinpoint the deficiencies in your current design and implement necessary recalibrations. It mirrors the scientific method. If an experiment fails to yield anticipated results, the scientist does not abandon the pursuit. They analyze the outcomes, refine their hypothesis, and endeavor anew. You can adopt this same approach in your life. Consider Sarah, who harbored a fervent ambition to pen a book. She possessed a lucid outline, designated writing periods, and a profound motivation to impart her narrative. However, after several months, her momentum faltered. She found herself overwhelmed by the sheer magnitude of the undertaking and began to question her capabilities. Rather than capitulating, Sarah resolved to embrace proactive life design. She convened with herself and posed the question, what are the obstacles hindering the completion of this book? She recognized that her daily writing sessions were excessively protracted, leading to exhaustion, and that she was not segmenting that monumental task into discrete, manageable components. She then architected a novel system. She curtailed her daily writing duration to briefer, more concentrated intervals and devised an exhaustive checklist of granular tasks for each chapter. She also resolved to share her progress with a trusted confidante for accountability. When moments of doubt assailed her, she recommitted to the why behind her desire to write this book to inspire others who had traversed analogous experiences. This purpose, coupled with her revised system, transmuted her frustration into a revitalized focus. She did not eradicate the inherent difficulty of authoring a book, but she meticulously designed a strategy to surmount the obstacles that arose. This leads us to the potent influence of stakes. Recall the concept of call your shot from earlier? This is where its efficacy becomes profoundly amplified when confronting adversity. When you have clearly defined stakes, particularly those that extend beyond yourself, they serve as a formidable catalyst for your resilience. If your commitment is solely to yourself and your comfort, it is facile to relinquish your efforts when challenges mount. However, if your commitment encompasses others, if there are tangible repercussions for failing to follow through, your impetus to overcome obstacles intensifies. For instance, if you have pledged to mentor a young individual and they are reliant upon your guidance, your commitment to them elevates the stakes. If you have undertaken a project that will significantly impact your team's success, the well-being of your colleagues becomes a stake. These external commitments, when harmonized with your purpose, forge a potent force that propels you forward when your internal reserves may falter. They serve as a reminder that your actions resonate, and that conquering your challenges can yield beneficial outcomes for others. The proactive approach to obstacles is intrinsically about constructing a robust life design that anticipates challenges, assimilates lessons from setbacks, and harnesses purpose and stakes to invigorate your trajectory. It is the recognition that the path to accomplishment is seldom unencumbered, but that every impediment encountered is an occasion to fortify your resolve and refine your methodology. By embracing obstacles not as hindrances, but as integral constituents of our developmental arc, and by comprehending how our purpose fuels our resilience, we unlock a profound capacity for perpetual advancement. This proactive engagement with adversity naturally ushers us toward the subsequent indispensable element of a high-achieving existence, the art of sustained focus and the deliberate cultivation of environments that foster our progress. 3. Finding personal purpose. Life can often feel like a relentless river sweeping us along in its current, whether by design or by chance. We may find ourselves enacting behaviors, frequenting locales, and inhabiting circumstances that simply transpired. This is the essence of the default, the path of least resistance, the unexamined inertia that governs our actions without conscious volition. But what if you could become the cartographer of that river's course? What if you could dictate its destination, the life it irrigates, and the landscapes it sculpts? This is the nascent stage of proactive life design, and at its core resides an element of profound significance: your personal purpose. Consider purpose as the resonant, unwavering frequency beneath the surface of your existence. It is the fundamental why that illuminates not merely what you undertake, but the very impetus behind your actions. Absent this intrinsic directive, even the most ingenious strategies for advancement can resemble the construction of an opulent edifice upon unstable ground. You might possess the finest instruments, the most lucid blueprints, and an inexhaustible wellspring of energy, but if the underlying reason for construction, or the ultimate beneficiary, remains obscure, the slightest gust of adversity can dismantle the entire enterprise. When we speak of designing our lives, we are advocating for a departure from this passive drift. We are electing to assume the roles of architects and engineers, the arbiters of the foundational blueprint. And the most indispensable component of that blueprint is purpose. It serves as the ballast that steadies you through tempestuous seas, the true north that guides you when disorientation sets in. It transforms a mere itinerary of tasks into a voyage imbued with meaning. Envision two individuals. One toils in a demanding profession solely for financial remuneration, while another, engaged in an analogous role, is propelled by an ardent aspiration to uplift their community through the very services their enterprise provides. When challenges manifest a recalcitrant client, an arduous day, a personal setback, the purpose-driven individual is far more inclined to persevere, to unearth solutions, and to endure. Their why possesses the gravitational force to render the how, the arduous labor, the sacrifices, the moments of discomfort not merely tolerable, but essential. This is purpose in its most potent manifestation, directly counteracting the default's insidious pull when life's rigors intensify. This leads us to a critical juncture. Purpose transcends mere pleasant sentiments or ephemeral aspirations. It is intrinsically intertwined with our capacity to navigate the inevitable tribulations and impediments that life invariably presents. Indeed, the most profound reservoirs of purpose are often discovered not in moments of sunshine and triumph, but within the somber shadows of past adversities. Reflect upon this. Have you ever encountered an experience of profound difficulty, a hardship, a loss, or a struggle that subsequently imbued you with greater fortitude, sagacity, or an intensified resolve to shield others from similar suffering? This is the crucible wherein the concept of transforming pain into purpose finds its most potent expression. Consider the narrative of Maria. For years, Maria grappled with a chronic ailment that frequently rendered her frail and isolated. The pain was a constant companion, and the horizon of her future seemed perpetually shrouded in uncertainty. She could have easily succumbed to a default trajectory of despair, her focus solely consumed by her suffering. Instead, as she navigated the labyrinthine complexities of her condition, she began to cultivate an acute understanding of the deficiencies in support and information available to others facing analogous predicaments. She became intimately familiar with diverse therapeutic approaches, the emotional toll, and the practical encumbrances. This personal crucible, This profound suffering became the fertile soil from which her purpose sprouted. She recognized within herself a unique insight and an unyielding imperative to champion enhanced patient care and to foster a community where individuals felt acknowledged and supported. Her purpose was not a product of abstract ideals, but rather forged in the fiery trials of her lived experience. The pain she endured did not shatter her, it reconfigured her, imbuing her with a potent, irrefutable rationale for action, for learning, and for dedicating her existence to effecting positive change. Her purpose became her most formidable propellant, transmogrifying her personal ordeal into an engine for collective good. This is the alchemical power of purpose, converting potential despair into a driving force for meaningful contribution. So, how does one unearth this potent force within? It is seldom an instantaneous revelation, a celestial epiphany. More frequently, the discovery of purpose is an expedition into the depths of self-awareness, a process of meticulously peeling back the layers to reveal that which truly resonates. It entails transcending nebulous ideals such as making the world a better place which, while laudable, can be too amorphous to translate into concrete action, and drilling down to the bedrock of your values, your passions, and the domains where you feel most vibrantly alive and most compelled to contribute. To embark upon this exploration, let us engage in a period of deliberate introspection. Revisit those junctures in your life when you felt most immersed, most vital, when time seemed to dissolve into insignificance, due to your complete absorption in an activity. What were you engaged in? What was it about that pursuit that captivated you so utterly? Was it the intricate unraveling of a complex problem? The creation of something aesthetically pleasing? The illumination of a difficult concept for another? The communion with the natural world? These moments, often characterized as states of flow, are potent signposts. They indicate activities that harmonize with your innate aptitudes and deepest fascinations. Subsequently, consider those subjects that perpetually ignite your curiosity. What themes do you find yourself habitually devouring, researching, or discussing, even in the absence of external prompting? What global quandaries stir your disquiet most profoundly? What injustices ignite your indignation? What positive transformations do you yearn to witness? These recurring patterns are not arbitrary, they frequently signify domains where your heart and intellect are already deeply invested, areas that may harbor the nascent seeds of your purpose. Furthermore, do not recoil from examining past frustrations or dissatisfactions. At times, that which profoundly irks us or strikes us as wrong in the world can serve as a powerful indicator of what we are driven to rectify. If you are perpetually vexed by substandard customer service, perhaps your purpose lies in establishing a venture or assuming a role where exemplary service is paramount. If you are perturbed by a deficit of clear communication in certain contexts, perhaps your purpose involves becoming a facilitator of understanding, a builder of bridges. These are not mere grievances, they are often eloquent pronouncements of your values and your potential spheres of influence. To facilitate this discovery, undertake the following exercise. Procure a notebook and a pen. For the ensuing week, dedicate a mere 15 minutes each day to journaling. Pose the following inquiries to yourself, allowing your thoughts to flow without censure. 1. What activities cause me to lose all track of time? Elaborate with specific detail. 2. What problems in the world do I feel most compelled to address, or most disturbed by? Be precise. 3. What are 3 fundamental values that are non-negotiable for me? For instance, integrity, inventiveness, empathy, continuous learning. 4. When have I experienced my greatest sense of self-worth, and what was the underlying reason? 5. If the specter of failure were entirely absent, what would I dedicate my time and energy toward? Do not anticipate immediate, definitive answers. This is an iterative process. The objective is to accumulate insights, to discern patterns, and to commence articulating the very essence of your driving force. This constitutes the bedrock of your proactive life design, the profound comprehension of your intrinsic why. It is equally imperative to recognize that your personal purpose is not a static decree inscribed in stone. It is more akin to a living, breathing navigational instrument that guides your trajectory. As you evolve, acquire knowledge, and accumulate life experiences, your understanding of your purpose can and should undergo transformation. What propels you today may be a refined iteration of what propelled you 5 years ago, or it may subtly redirect your course. This is not indicative of inconsistency, it is a testament to growth. Embracing this dynamic nature liberates you from a singular, potentially constricting definition. Instead, you possess a guiding star that can be recalibrated as you navigate the ever-shifting panorama of your existence. This adaptability is indispensable for sustained advancement. Just as your strategies for growth and accomplishment become more sophisticated, so too will the outward expression of your purpose. It is a perpetual dialogue between your inner impetus and your outward actions. Once your purpose is illuminated, it becomes the lodestar for all your undertakings. However, purpose in isolation, while potent, necessitates direction and structure to manifest as tangible achievements. The subsequent phase in designing your proactive life involves harnessing this clarity and translating it into concrete, actionable objectives that resonate with your deepest motivations. 4. Sustaining long-term growth. The trajectory toward a life imbued with profound fulfillment is not a linear path culminating in a definitive finish line. Rather, it more closely resembles a meandering river, perpetually in motion, altering its course and sculpting novel terrains. Many falter because they erroneously believe they have arrived upon achieving a singular objective. This might manifest as securing a coveted position, completing a monumental undertaking, or attaining a specific level of physical conditioning. For a fleeting moment, a sense of accomplishment washes over them, followed by a sigh of relief. Yet, invariably, something unforeseen transpires. The initial elation dissipates. The challenge recedes. And insidiously, almost imperceptibly, they begin to drift. This is the seductive illusion of arrival, a formidable impediment to enduring growth. Genuine advancement lies not in reaching a static point, but in cultivating an individual perpetually poised for learning and adaptation. Consider this analogy. If you cease honing your swimming prowess, you may navigate placid waters with ease for a time. But what transpires when a tempest descends? You will be utterly unprepared. Proactive life design necessitates the understanding that arrival is merely a new genesis. It involves a fundamental shift in focus, moving from the mere act of achieving to the deliberate cultivation of personal growth. This demands a continuous internal inquiry. What lies beyond? Not born of obligation, but of authentic curiosity and an unflagging desire for enhanced capability. This perpetual evolution constitutes the very pulse of a life meticulously crafted. To sustain forward momentum, particularly across the expanse of years, your strategies and routines must possess inherent fortitude. They must exhibit the capacity to bend without fracturing when confronted by life's unexpected vicissitudes. This is precisely where the construction of adaptive systems becomes paramount. Envision a robust oak tree. Its roots anchor it firmly to the earth, yet its branches, supple and yielding, sway with the wind rather than succumbing to its force. This is the caliber of resilience we aspire to cultivate. We aim to forge systems that not only rebound from adversity but actively derive strength from it. How, then, do we achieve this? One potent method is diversification. If your professional existence is predicated upon a singular, highly specialized skill, and that skill's relevance abruptly wanes, you find yourself in precarious straits. Conversely, if you have assiduously acquired complementary proficiencies, or even entirely distinct ones, you retain a spectrum of options. You possess the agility to pivot. Regard it as an expansive toolkit, replete with an array of instruments. Should one tool falter, others remain at your disposal. This principle extends far beyond occupational pursuits. It encompasses the cultivation of a supportive cadre of friends and colleagues, individuals who offer not mere agreement, but genuine camaraderie. It entails the establishment of contingency plans for your primary strategies. If your sole method of wealth accumulation involves investment in a single stock, and that stock plummets, your losses are substantial. However, by prudently distributing your capital across diverse financial instruments, you significantly mitigate risk. These are all manifestations of designing a life that is anti-fragile, not merely capable of withstanding hardship, but poised to flourish in its wake. This prescient approach transmutes potential calamities into fertile ground for learning and the fortification of one's resolve. Occasionally, the most significant advancements emerge not from Herculean efforts, but from the accumulation of minuscule, consistent strides. We often succumb to the fallacy that transformative change necessitates monumental exertion, a notion that frequently proves erroneous. Contemplate the genesis of a colossal tree from a diminutive seed. It is not an instantaneous event. It is the cumulative consequence of daily sunlight, hydration, and the passage of time. The power inherent in incremental progress is immense. If you can achieve a mere 1% improvement in any given endeavor each day, over the course of a year, your transformation will be profound. This is the marvel of compounding, the aggregation of modest gains into something extraordinary over time. However, a critical element, often overlooked, is that sustained growth also necessitates deliberate interludes of repose. We are not automatons. We require rest. We must occasionally withdraw to gain perspective on our trajectory. Burnout is the clandestine saboteur of long-term aspirations. It is that pervasive sensation of utter depletion, an inability to progress, and a complete erosion of motivation. To circumvent this insidious threat, we must integrate periods of rest and introspection into our design. These are not periods of idleness, they are indispensable components of the developmental cycle. During these respites, we are afforded the opportunity to appraise our progress. What is functioning optimally? What is faltering? What wisdom have we gleaned from both our triumphs and our setbacks? This reflective process empowers us to recalibrate our strategies. Perhaps the chosen path, once deemed superior, has lost its efficacy. Perhaps a different methodology warrants exploration. These moments of stepping back are not indicative of weakness, they are hallmarks of intelligent design. They ensure that our journey remains purposeful and that we do not squander valuable energy on pursuits that no longer serve us. Underpinning this entire framework is our cognitive orientation. The manner in which we perceive our capabilities and confront challenges profoundly influences our capacity for enduring growth. Two primary modes of thought prevail: the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. An individual operating with a fixed mindset perceives their fundamental attributes, such as intellect or talent, as immutable characteristics. They are largely unalterable. Consequently, when confronted with a formidable obstacle, they might conclude, "I am not adept at this, therefore I shall desist." They may actively eschew arduous tasks, motivated by a desire to preserve an unblemished image. They interpret failure as definitive proof of their inadequacy or lack of inherent ability. This cognitive disposition renders long-term development virtually unattainable, as it fosters an aversion to venturing beyond one's established boundaries. Conversely, a growth mindset is predicated on the conviction that one's abilities can be honed through dedicated effort and persistent application. Individuals who embrace a growth mindset welcome challenges, viewing them as invaluable opportunities for learning and self-enhancement. They recognize that diligent effort is the pathway to mastery. When confronted with setbacks, they do not perceive them as personal indictments, but rather as occasions to glean insights and persevere. They actively solicit feedback, even criticism, as it serves as a catalyst for improvement. This profound belief in one's capacity for development is absolutely indispensable for sustained progress. It acts as a potent propellant for motivation during arduous periods and sustains the quest for novel avenues of development, year after year. Therefore, how can one proactively architect their developmental trajectory to forestall stagnation or exhaustion, even amidst flux? It commences with the acknowledgement that change is an immutable constant. Avoid constructing your life around the assumption of perpetual stability. Instead, engineer systems capable of accommodating shifts. This entails regular self-assessment and reassessment of your objectives. Pose the questions: does this still ignite my passion? Is this the most efficacious route to achieving my desired outcomes? Cultivate a willingness to adapt your plans. Should a novel opportunity emerge that resonates more profoundly with your evolving interests, remain receptive to its exploration. This is not an endorsement of capriciousness. It is an exercise in sagacity and adaptability. Consider, for instance, Sarah, a graphic designer. Her career began with an ardent passion for crafting logos. She excelled in this niche. For years, her professional focus remained exclusively on logo design. Subsequently, the market for logos began to evolve, with a burgeoning demand for digital marketing graphics. Sarah could have rigidly adhered to her established expertise, clinging to the hope of a resurgence in logo design demand. Instead, she embraced the transformation. She embarked on online courses in social media graphic design and video editing. She did not abandon her logo design proficiencies, but augmented them with new competencies. She forged a more resilient career by adapting. When clients requested social media advertisements, she could now readily provide this service, enhancing her value and stabilizing her income. She proactively designed her growth by acquiring new, in-demand skills, thereby converting a potential threat into a tangible opportunity. Another illustration is Mark, who aspired to complete a marathon. He commenced his training regimen, gradually increasing his daily mileage. He meticulously focused on augmenting his distance by a modest increment each week. Crucially, he also integrated rest days alongside sessions dedicated to stretching and strength conditioning. He did not relentlessly push himself to run farther every single day, recognizing that such an approach would inevitably lead to injury and burnout. He meticulously planned his training, incorporating these vital periods of recuperation. When he detected a subtle discomfort in his knee, he did not disregard it. He observed an additional rest day and consulted a physical therapist. He adapted his training plan in response to his body's signals. This judicious, consistent methodology, coupled with attentive listening to his physical cues, enabled him to train for and successfully complete the marathon without incurring injury. His growth was sustained because his system was engineered for endurance, not merely for a brief, intense sprint. What specific mechanisms or habits can be integrated into your proactive life blueprint to ensure that the initial impetus for growth not only endures, but intensifies over years and decades? Foremost, institute regular review intervals. These could be weekly, monthly, or quarterly. During these designated periods, scrutinize your objectives, your habits, and your progress. Are you adhering to your intended course? Is any recalibration necessary? While this may seem like an additional burden, it ultimately prevents the squandering of months or years on a misdirected path. Secondly, cultivate a habit of perpetual learning. This does not necessitate formal academic pursuits or degree attainment. It can encompass the perusal of books, engagement with podcasts, attendance at workshops, or even candid conversations with individuals possessing greater expertise. Integrate learning as an intrinsic facet of your existence, akin to sustenance or sleep. Allocate a modest portion of your daily or weekly schedule to the acquisition of novel knowledge or skills. Thirdly, construct a robust support network. Surround yourself with individuals who champion your growth and can offer both encouragement and candid feedback. These are the individuals who will celebrate your victories and provide solace and guidance when you falter. Disclose your aspirations to them and permit them to serve as your accountability partners. Fourthly, practice self-compassion. There will inevitably be instances where you fall short of your aspirations. Instead of self-recrimination, extend to yourself the same kindness and understanding you would readily offer a dear friend. Acknowledge that setbacks are an inherent component of any meaningful journey and leverage them as invaluable learning opportunities. Finally, and perhaps most critically, keep your why vibrant. Revisit the profound motivations that catalyzed your commitment to this path of growth. What is your ultimate purpose? What positive impact do you aspire to effect? When your purpose is unequivocally defined, it serves as an unshakable anchor, maintaining your focus and bolstering your motivation, even when the terrain becomes arduous. Your purpose is the vital fuel that sustains the engine of proactive life design over the long haul. It elevates the quotidian routine into a mission imbued with significance, ensuring that your growth transcends mere personal accomplishment and contributes something of genuine value to the wider world. As we have delved into the paramount importance of sustained growth, it becomes abundantly clear that the journey of proactive life design is an unceasing expedition. The strategies for cultivating resilience and embracing evolution are not solely about augmenting achievement, but about enhancing our capacity to navigate the complexities of the future. This naturally compels us to consider how we can proactively shape our environment and our interpersonal connections to further bolster this ongoing odyssey of growth and accomplishment. In conclusion, you have journeyed through the blueprint, not merely as a reader, but as the architect of your own existence. The pages you have turned represent far more than abstract theory. They are the foundational schematics for a life actively sculpted, not passively received. For too long, many have drifted, allowing circumstances to dictate their days, reacting to the vagaries of fortune. This is the default state that, while perhaps comfortable, is ultimately a cage of limitation. This book has contended that a truly fulfilling and productive existence is not a matter of serendipity or chance. It is a deliberate creation. It is the consequence of proactively designing your actions, your habits, and your commitments. It is about channeling the energy that might otherwise be consumed by frustration or regret, and instead, transmuting it into potent motivation. You now possess the instruments to transcend the default and consciously sculpt your reality. You hold within you the intrinsic capacity to design your life. This profound transformation is erected upon a bedrock of deliberate practices, each an indispensable element of proactive life design. At its core lies the fundamental paradigm shift, the discerning recognition of the critical chasm between design and default. This is the very bedrock upon which control is seized. It signifies a transition from the passive passenger on life's voyage to the intentional driver, firmly grasping the helm. It necessitates the conscious adjudication of how your energy is expended, how your tasks are approached, and how your days are structured. Consider, with introspection, your stewardship of time, your engagement with your to-do list, and your weekly prognostication. Are these actions propelled by external imperatives or by your own meticulously crafted design? Beyond this central mindset, proactive life design flourishes through the potent force of systematization. Habits, rituals, and even the simplest checklists can coalesce into robust architectures, automated pathways that guide your actions with minimal friction. These systems serve as the scaffolding of a designed existence, liberating your precious cognitive resources to be directed towards higher-order cognition, innovation, and the truly pivotal facets of your purpose. When your systems are meticulously in place, you can more readily attain a state of flow, immersing yourself deeply in work that resonates without the constant intrusion of interruption or the drain of decision fatigue. Then there is the formidable power of unwavering commitment, the principle of call your shot. This mandates the articulation of crystalline objectives, the establishment of judiciously realistic timelines, and, crucially, the creation of meaningful stakes. When you publicly pledge allegiance to a goal, or institute personal ramifications for dereliction, you forge a formidable structure of accountability. This pillar ensures that your designed life remains steadfastly on its intended course. It is about designing the enforcement of your design, thereby dramatically augmenting the probability that your intentions will manifest as consistent action. Finally, and perhaps most profoundly, is purpose. Your purpose functions as the ultimate navigator for your proactive choices. It is the resonant why that fuels the entire design enterprise. When your purpose is luminously clear, you possess a compass that guides every decision, ensuring your actions are in harmonious alignment with your deepest values and aspirations. This is the crucible where potential pain is intentionally transmuted into motivation. Instead of being immobilized by apprehension or uncertainty, you can tap into that very energy, understanding that your purpose is an endeavor worthy of surmounting any obstacle. These pillars, mindset, systems, commitment, and purpose, do not stand in isolation. They interweave in a dynamic synergy. Your purpose ignites your commitment to forging efficacious systems, and those systems, in turn, liberate the energy requisite to inhabit A lucid, proactive mindset. While the blueprints now reside within your grasp, the act of construction is an unceasing endeavor. Proactive life design is not a static destination to be reached and then abandoned. It is an ongoing, fluid process of refinement. Life will inevitably present challenges, distractions, and moments where you may falter, reverting to ingrained, default patterns. This is not an indictment of failure, but an intrinsic characteristic of the design journey. Instead of perceiving these as setbacks, regard them as invaluable opportunities for learning and for redesign. How can you adapt your systems to more adeptly navigate these interruptions? How can you fortify your commitment when confronted with resistance? How can you realign with your purpose when adrift? Cultivating resilience is an integral component of a robustly designed life. It is the capacity to rebound, to glean wisdom from deviations, and to persist in designing with rekindled intention. This is a lifelong practice, and its dividends accrue exponentially over time, culminating in a life imbued with profound fulfillment and heightened productivity. The opportune moment to design your life is now. The future you yearn for is forged in the crucible of the present moment, through the discerning choices you enact today. Do not defer to the alignment of circumstances or the capricious arrival of inspiration. Step fully into your role as the designer. Embrace the formidable power of proactive life design. Your most fulfilling and productive life awaits your deliberate creation. Proceed, architect of your own destiny. Design your default. Inhabit your masterpiece.